The train wheels screeched against the metal tracks as Maya pressed her forehead against the cool window glass. 8 years. 8 whole years since she'd seen this place. The familiar buildings started appearing one by one as the train slowed down, and her heart began racing faster with each passing second. She looked down at her expensive leather shoes and designer handbag. Everything about her screamed success now. Everything looked perfect from the outside. But inside, she felt like that scared 18-year-old girl all over again. Her phone buzzed. Another message from her sister Sophie. "Dad's stable. Don't worry. But hurry." Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She'd built an entire life in New York. A good life. A safe life. She had a corner office, respect from her colleagues, and a salary that would have made her teenage self's jaw drop. But when Sophie called 3 days ago crying about their father's heart attack, none of that mattered anymore. The station looked exactly the same. The same old coffee shop on the corner. The same flower vendor who'd been there since she was a kid. Even the smell was the same. A mix of fresh bread from the bakery and diesel from the buses. "Maya, over here." Sophie was waving frantically from the parking lot. Her little sister wasn't so little anymore. She'd grown into a beautiful woman, but her smile was still the same. They hugged tight, and Maya felt tears threatening to spill. "How is he?" "Better now. The doctors say he'll recover, but Maya, there's something else we need to talk about." During the drive to the hospital, Sophie kept glancing at her nervously. Finally, Maya couldn't take it anymore. "Just tell me. Whatever it is, just say it. The garage is in trouble. Bad trouble. Dad took out loans to keep it running, and now we're behind on payments." Way behind. Their father's garage had been in the family for 30 years. Maya had grown up playing between car parts, learning to change tires before she learned algebra. That garage was more than a business. It was their family's heart. How bad? Sophie bit her lip. "Bad enough that we might lose it in a few months if we can't figure something out." At the hospital, Maya sat beside her father's bed, holding his rough, oil-stained hand. He looked so small lying there, so fragile. This man who'd seemed like a giant her whole childhood. His eyes fluttered open. "My girl, you came back." "Of course I came back, Dad. Where else would I be?" He squeezed her hand weakly. "I made a mess of things. The garage, the money. I'm sorry. Don't talk about that now. Just rest." But after he fell back asleep, Maya couldn't rest. She went to the garage that evening. The old building looked tired, paint peeling. One of the bay doors stuck halfway open. Inside, everything was organized chaos. Tools everywhere, half-finished projects, stacks of paperwork on the desk that made her head hurt just looking at them. She started going through the files. Her marketing brain kicked in automatically, analyzing, categorizing, making mental notes. Then she found the loan documents. Her hand started shaking as she read through them. The primary creditor's name jumped out at her like a punch to the gut. Ethan Cross. No, it couldn't be. Not him, not after all these years, but there it was in black and white. Ethan Cross Properties, LLC. He owned the mortgage on the garage. He was the one they owed money to. Maya sat down hard in her father's old desk chair. The same Ethan who used to work here as an apprentice. The same boy who used to steal kisses from her behind the tool cabinet. The same person whose heart she'd broken into a million pieces 8 years ago. Sophie found her there an hour later, still staring at the documents. "You saw his name? You knew?" "Everyone knows. Ethan owns half the buildings downtown now. He's not the broke mechanic kid anymore, Maya. He's successful, really successful." Maya's mind was spinning. "How did this happen?" "After you left, he worked like crazy. Saved every penny. Started buying properties when they were cheap during the recession. Now he's one of the biggest landlords in town." Sophie paused. "He's also completely different, cold, distant. People say he never really got over what happened between you two." The words hit Maya like stones. She'd known leaving would hurt him. She'd known it was cruel to disappear with just a note, but she'd been so scared, so confused, so completely broken that running had seemed like the only option. "I have to talk to him." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "I don't have a choice. This is Dad's garage. Our family's history. I can't let it go without a fight." That night, Maya barely slept. She kept remembering everything. Their first date at the county fair. The way he'd looked at her like she was the most amazing thing in the world. How he'd talked about their future, about fixing up a house together, about building a life in this small town. And she remembered the other thing. The thing that made her run. The thing she'd never told anyone except the doctor at that clinic 2 towns over. The secret that had eaten away at her for 8 years. The next morning, Maya put on her best business suit. If she was going to face Ethan Cross, she needed armor. She needed to be Maya Chen, the successful marketing executive, not the terrified girl who'd left him. His office was in a renovated building downtown. The lobby was sleek and modern, completely different from the rundown shop she remembered from high school. The receptionist smiled professionally. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but please tell him Maya Chen needs to discuss the property on 5th Street. It's urgent." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. Clearly she knew exactly who Maya was. Small towns never forgot anything. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. Finally, the receptionist nodded. "Mr. Cross will see you now. 3rd floor, corner office." Maya's heels clicked on the marble floor as she walked to the elevator. Her reflection in the metal doors showed a confident woman, but inside her stomach was doing flips. The elevator dinged. 3rd floor. His office door was open. She could see him sitting at his desk, head down, reading something. For a moment, she just stood there, taking him in. He'd changed. His shoulders were broader, his jaw sharper. He wore an expensive suit that fit perfectly. But it was still him. Still Ethan. She knocked softly. He looked up. Time stopped. For just a second, she saw everything flash across his face. Surprise. Recognition. Pain. Something that might have been hope. Then his expression went completely blank, like a door slamming shut. "Miss Chen?" His voice was formal, cold. "Please come in. Miss Chen, not Maya, not the nickname he used to call her. Just Miss Chen, like she was a stranger." She walked in, forcing her legs to stay steady. "Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. I assume this is about your father's property." "Yes. I wanted to discuss the terms of the loan." He leaned back in his chair, studying her with eyes that gave nothing away. "The terms are clearly stated in the contract. I don't typically renegotiate agreements that were signed willingly. My father was desperate. He was trying to save the family business, and I provided capital when no other bank would. I don't see the problem." This wasn't the Ethan she remembered. That Ethan had been warm, passionate, full of dreams. "This person was made of ice. I'm asking you to work with us. Give us time to turn things around. I have experience in marketing and business development. I can help make the garage profitable again. You have experience in New York. This is a small town. Different rules." The way he said New York made it sound like a betrayal. Maya took a deep breath. "What do you want, Ethan?" Finally, a crack in the ice. His jaw tightened. "What do I want?" "For the garage. What would it take for you to give us more time?" He stood up, walking to the window. His back was to her, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. "I'll forgive half the debt." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you. On one condition." Her relief turned to dread. "What condition?" He turned around and his eyes were hard again. "You stay 1 year. You manage the turnaround yourself. No delegating to your sister or hiring someone else. You stay here and fix what's broken." She felt the trap closing. "I have a job in New York, a career. Then I guess your father's garage isn't that important after all." "That's not fair." "Fair?" For the first time, real emotion cracked through his voice. "You want to talk to me about fair?" They stared at each other across the office. 8 years of hurt and anger and unfinished business hanging between them like smoke. 1 year, she finally said. "I'll do it. I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers." "Fine." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Maya." It was the first time he'd said her name. She looked back. "Welcome home." The way he said it made it sound like both a greeting and a punishment. Maya spent the next 3 days moving into her old childhood bedroom, which Sophie had thankfully kept mostly the same. Her designer clothes looked ridiculous hanging in the small closet next to her old high school yearbooks. She'd called her boss in New York, negotiating a year's leave of absence. He wasn't happy, but he'd agreed to hold her position, probably because she'd made the company too much money to lose completely. The town's reaction to her return spread faster than wildfire. By day 2, she couldn't go to the grocery store without someone stopping her. Mrs. Peterson from the bakery hugged her like a long-lost daughter. Old Mr. Yang from the hardware store asked about her father with genuine concern. But there were others too. People who looked at her with curiosity, maybe judgment, wondering why she'd stayed away so long. She started at the garage on Monday morning. The work was harder than she'd expected. Her father had let things slide more than she'd realized. Systems were outdated, customer records were a mess, and some of the equipment desperately needed repairs they couldn't afford. But Maya threw herself into it. She created spreadsheets, organized the schedule, reached out to old customers who'd drifted away. She even got her hands dirty, learning to do basic maintenance herself. The physical work felt good, honest in a way her corporate job never had. Ethan's lawyer sent over the contract. It was fair, technically, cold but fair. She had to provide monthly reports on the garage's progress. They'd meet every Friday to review finances, professional, distant, safe. Their first official meeting was awkward. Ethan sat across from her in the garage's tiny office, reviewing her reports with a neutral expression. He asked smart questions, pointed out areas for improvement, acknowledged what she'd done well. But he never looked directly at her, never let the conversation drift anywhere personal. "You've made good progress," he said, closing the folder. "Keep it up. That's it?" What else would there be? She wanted to scream. She wanted to shake him, to make him react, to see something real in those guarded eyes. Instead, she just nodded. "Nothing. See you next week." Weeks turned into a month. The garage started showing small signs of improvement. Maya had gotten 3 old customers to return and found 2 new ones through social media marketing. The numbers were still tight, but they were moving in the right direction. Her father came home from the hospital, weaker but alive. He cried when he saw what she'd done with the garage, organizing and cleaning and bringing in business. "You didn't have to do all this." "Yes, I did." Sophie helped when she could, though she had her own job at the elementary school. Sometimes in the evenings, they'd sit on the porch like they did as kids, drinking sweet tea and watching the sun go down. "He asks about you," Sophie said one night. "Who?" "Don't play dumb, Ethan. He asks people about you." Casually, like he doesn't care. "But he does. It doesn't matter." "That's ancient history, is it though? Because you still wear the necklace he gave you for your 17th birthday, I've noticed." Maya's hand went to her throat, touching the small silver pendant she'd never taken off. "It's just a necklace." "Sure it is." The town's annual fall fair arrived in October. Maya hadn't planned to go, but her father insisted. "You've been working too hard. Go have some fun. Be young for a night." The fairgrounds looked exactly like she remembered. The same rickety Ferris wheel, the same game booths with impossible-to-win prizes, the same smell of fried dough and caramel apples. She walked through it all, memories hitting her at every turn. This was where Ethan had won her a stuffed bear. This was where they'd shared their first kiss at the top of the Ferris wheel. This was where he'd told her he loved her, nervous and sweet and so sure of their future. She was so lost in memories that she almost didn't see him. He was standing alone near the Ferris wheel, hands in his pockets, staring up at the lights. Something about his posture looked lonely, vulnerable in a way he never allowed himself to be in their meetings. Before she could think better of it, her feet started moving toward him. She stopped a few feet away, her heart pounding. He hadn't noticed her yet. She could still turn around, walk away, keep things professional and distant. But she was so tired of running, so tired of pretending. There was an empty bench beside him. She walked up to it slowly. He finally sensed someone near and turned. Their eyes met, and she saw surprise flash across his face. She looked at the bench, then back at him. Her voice came out softer than she'd intended. "If I sit right here, will you still pretend you don't care?" The question hung in the air between them. For a long moment, he just stared at her. She could see him struggling, walls trying to stay up, emotions trying to break through. Then something in him broke. "Pretend?" His voice was rough, raw with emotion he'd been holding back for weeks. "You think I'm pretending? You barely look at me in our meetings. You act like I'm just another business associate. What else am I supposed to do, Maya?" He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from when he was frustrated. "You left. You disappeared 8 years ago with a 3-sentence note. No explanation. No goodbye, nothing. Then you show up because you need something, and I'm supposed to what? Act like that didn't destroy me?" His words hit her like physical blows. "Ethan, do you have any idea what that year was like? Waiting for you to call, to write, to give me any sign that what we had meant something? I thought you were dead for the first month. Then I found out you were alive and well in New York, living your best life, and that was somehow worse. Tears started streaming down her face. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, tell me? Because I've spent 8 years trying to understand and I still don't get it. What did I do that was so terrible that you couldn't even say goodbye to my face? People were starting to stare. They were causing a scene, but Maya didn't care anymore. 8 years of guilt and pain were pouring out and she couldn't stop it. You didn't do anything wrong. It was me, it was all me. That's not an answer. She sat down on the bench, her legs shaking too much to stand. After a moment, he sat too, keeping distance between them but close enough that she could feel his presence. I was scared, she whispered. Of what? Of me. Of everything. Of this town, of the future, of myself. Ethan, I was 18 years old and completely terrified. I was 18 too. We could have faced it together. She shook her head. No, we couldn't have, not this. Not what I... Her voice broke. He turned to look at her fully for the first time. Really look at her. She saw concern break through the anger. Maya, what happened? And suddenly she couldn't keep it in anymore. The secret she'd carried for 8 years. The weight that had been crushing her. The truth that had driven her away. I was pregnant. The words fell between them like stones. Ethan went completely still. What? That week before graduation? I found out I was pregnant. The words were spilling out now, unstoppable. I was terrified. My mother found the test and she lost it. She said we'd be ruined, that everyone would talk, that I'd destroy my future and yours. She said I was too young, that we were too young, that keeping it would be the biggest mistake of my life. Why didn't you tell me? His voice was barely a whisper. I was going to. I planned this whole thing. I was going to tell you at graduation. But then my mother kept talking and I started thinking about how hard life would be. How we had no money, how everyone would look at us. And I got so scared. Ethan's hands were shaking. What did you do? The shame washed over her in waves. I went to a clinic, 2 towns over where nobody knew me. I ended it. I was 17 years old and I made that choice alone, and afterward, I couldn't face you. I couldn't face anyone. How could I tell you what I'd done? How could I look you in the eye knowing I'd destroyed something that was ours, without even giving you a choice? The silence was deafening. She could hear the carnival music in the distance, children laughing, but it all felt a million miles away. So you just left, he finally said. I couldn't stay. Every time I saw you, I saw what I'd done. Every time someone congratulated us on graduation, on our future together, I felt like such a fake. The guilt was eating me alive, Ethan. I thought if I left, if I started over somewhere new, maybe I could forget. Maybe I could become someone who deserved to be happy. Did it work? She let out a bitter laugh. No, I've been in therapy for 6 years. I built this whole successful life, and none of it felt real because I was always running from what I'd done. Ethan stood up, pacing a few steps away. His back was to her, and she could see his shoulders shaking. When he spoke, his voice was thick with tears. I would have been there. Whatever you decided, whatever you needed, I would have been there. I know. That's what made it worse. You would have been amazing, and I was so weak. He turned around, and there were tears on his face, too. You weren't weak. You were scared and alone, and you made an impossible choice that no teenager should have to make. But Maya, you should have told me. You should have let me be there for you. Even after. Especially after. I'm so sorry. She was sobbing now, all the grief she'd held for 8 years pouring out. I'm so sorry. He crossed the distance between them and pulled her up from the bench into his arms. She collapsed against him, crying into his chest while he held her tight. They stood there under the fair lights, 2 broken people finally being honest with each other. When her tears finally slowed. The days after the fair felt different. Ethan didn't magically forgive everything, and Maya didn't suddenly stop feeling guilty. But something had shifted between them. The ice had cracked, even if it hadn't completely melted yet. Their Friday meetings became longer. At first, they still talked mostly about business, but then the conversations would drift. He'd mention something about a property he was renovating. She'd talk about a customer who'd made her laugh. Small pieces of real life creeping back in. One Friday, as they were finishing up the weekly report, Ethan closed his folder, but didn't stand up to leave. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you really come back? I mean, I know it was your father's heart attack, but you could have just sent money. You didn't have to stay. Maya had asked herself this question 100 times. I think part of me knew it was time. I'd been running for so long and I was exhausted. When Sophie called about Dad, it felt like a sign. Like the universe was telling me I couldn't hide forever. Do you miss New York? Sometimes. I miss the anonymity. In a city that big, you can be whoever you want. Nobody knows your history. But here, everyone knows everything. Exactly. She smiled a little. Mrs. Peterson at the bakery asked me last week if we were sorting things out. Those were her exact words. Ethan laughed, and it was the first genuine laugh she'd heard from him. This town is terrible at minding its own business. The worst. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Ethan spoke again, more seriously. I've been thinking about what you told me. About everything. Maya's stomach tightened, and I understand better now why you left. I don't think I agree with how you handled it, but I understand the fear. I understand why you felt trapped. He paused. But I need you to understand something too. When you left, you didn't just break my heart. You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like whatever we had wasn't worth fighting for. That's not true. You were everything. That's why I couldn't face you. I know that now, but 18-year-old me didn't. He just felt abandoned. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I know you are. He looked at her directly, those green eyes she'd never forgotten. I need time, Maya. I need time to process all of this, to figure out what I feel beyond the anger and hurt. I understand. Take all the time you need. But I don't want to pretend anymore. Can we try to be friends? Real friends, not just business associates? Hope bloomed in her chest. I'd like that. Good. Then as friends, I should tell you that your coffee order is terrible. Who drinks pumpkin spice lattes in November? They're an October thing. She threw a wadded-up piece of paper at him. Don't you dare criticize my coffee choices. He caught it, grinning. Too late. Already criticized. It was a small moment, silly and light, but it felt like a door opening. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a new rhythm. Ethan started showing up at the garage sometimes, not for meetings, but just to help. He was still good with his hands, still remembered how to fix engines and diagnose problems. They'd work side by side, talking about nothing important, slowly rebuilding something that felt like trust. Sophie noticed the change immediately. So you two are talking again. We're trying to be friends, just friends? Yes, Sophie, just friends. He needs time, and honestly, so do I. We're different people now. Are you, though? Different people? Sophie raised an eyebrow. Because I see the way you look at him when he's not watching, and I definitely see the way he looks at you. It's complicated. Love always is. But Maya wasn't sure if it was love anymore. Maybe it was just the ghost of what they used to have. Nostalgia for easier times. She'd spent so long idealizing their teenage romance that she wasn't sure what was real and what was memory. The garage continued to improve. By late November, they were actually turning a profit for the first time in years. Maya had implemented a loyalty program, started a social media presence, and even convinced a local body shop to send overflow customers their way. Her father was proud, and that meant everything. One afternoon, a woman came into the garage. She was maybe 35, pretty, with perfectly styled hair and designer sunglasses. She asked to speak to Maya. I'm Maya. How can I help you? The woman studied her for a long moment. I'm Jennifer, Ethan's ex-wife. Maya's stomach dropped. Oh, I heard you were back in town. I wanted to meet you myself, see what all the fuss was about. I don't know what you mean. Jennifer laughed, but it wasn't a kind sound. Please. Ethan talked about you our entire marriage. Maya this, Maya that. I always knew I was competing with a ghost. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to him. No, it's not. But it's the truth. Jennifer took off her sunglasses and her eyes were sad. I don't hate you if that's what you're worried about. I'm actually relieved. At least now I understand why he could never really love me. How can anyone compete with a first love who disappeared tragically? It wasn't tragic. It was messy and complicated and painful. Even better, now you get to be real people instead of perfect memories. Jennifer put her sunglasses back on. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to tell you that if you're going to break his heart again, please just leave now. Don't drag it out. He deserves better than that. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Maybe not, but sometimes we hurt people anyway, don't we? Jennifer turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you figure it out. I really do. He's a good man. He deserves to be happy. After she left, Maya sat in the office for a long time thinking. Jennifer was right. They'd been living in this weird limbo, not quite past, not quite present. Eventually, they'd have to decide what they were doing. That night, there was a community meeting about the annual winter festival. Maya went because several garage customers would be there, good for networking. She didn't expect to see Ethan, but he showed up halfway through looking tired but pleased about something. During the break, he found her by the coffee table. "Hey, I wanted to tell you something. I sold the mortgage on your father's garage." Her heart stopped. "What? Not to someone else?"
I mean, I'm forgiving the rest of the debt.
"It's paid off. The garage is yours free and clear." "Ethan, you can't do that. That's too much money. Consider it an investment in the community. The garage is important to this town. Your family is important." He smiled. "Besides, you've done such a good job turning things around, I couldn't justify keeping that pressure on you. But our deal. I was supposed to stay a year. You were. And you still can if you want to. But not because of a contract. If you stay, it should be because you want to, not because I'm forcing you." Maya felt tears threatening. "Why would you do this?" "Because Jennifer came to see me today. She told me she'd talk to you. Made me realize that I've been holding on to anger as a way to keep you close. That's not fair to either of us." He put his hands in his pockets, looking vulnerable. "I want you in my life, Maya, but I want it to be your choice. No pressure, no obligations. Just you choosing to be here. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now. Just think about it." He started to walk away, but Maya grabbed his arm. "Ethan, wait," he turned back. "Your ex-wife. She's not wrong. I have been competing with a ghost. The ghost of who we used to be." Maya took a deep breath. "But here's the thing. I don't want to go back to being those kids. We can't. Too much has happened. Too much has changed. I know. But maybe we could get to know who we are now. Not as a business obligation. Not as old flames trying to rekindle something. Just as two people who have history and are figuring out if they have a future." Something sparked in his eyes. "Are you asking me on a date? Maybe, is that crazy?" "Completely crazy." He smiled, and it was the warmest smile she'd seen from him. "How about dinner? Tomorrow night? Somewhere that's not the garage or my office? I'd like that. It's a date then. A real one." After he left, Maya felt lighter than she had in years. Sophie found her standing there, probably looking dazed. "What happened? You look weird." "I have a date. With Ethan." "With Ethan?" Sophie squealed and hugged her. "Finally. It's about time you two stopped dancing around each other." "It's just dinner. We're taking things slow." "Sure you are." Sophie was practically bouncing. "What are you going to wear?" "Not those boring work clothes. You need something nice but not trying too hard. And we need to do something with your hair." "Sophie, it's just dinner." "It's not just dinner. It's a second chance." Maybe Sophie was right. Maybe this was their second chance. Not to recapture what they'd lost, but to build something new. Something stronger. Built on truth instead of teenage dreams. That night, lying in her childhood bed, Maya thought about everything that had led her here. The pain, the running, the years of therapy and growth, all of it had been necessary to become someone who could be honest. Who could face hard truths, who could maybe, possibly, deserve a second chance at love. She touched the necklace at her throat, the one she'd never taken off. Tomorrow she'd wear something different. Not because she wanted to erase the past, but because she was ready to step into the future. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Looking forward to tomorrow. Sleep well?" She smiled and typed back, "You too." It was a small thing, a simple text. But it felt like a promise. Like maybe, just maybe, they were finding their way back to each other. Not as the people they'd been, but as the people they'd become. Maya changed her outfit 3 times before the date. Everything felt wrong. Too formal, too casual, trying too hard, not trying enough. Finally, Sophie physically removed the clothes from her hands. "You're wearing the blue dress. The one that makes you look confident but approachable. And you're leaving your hair down because he always loved it that way." Sophie paused. "Wait, do we want to do things he loved, or is that weird?" "I have no idea. I haven't been on a first date in 3 years." "This isn't a first date, though. It's like a renewed date? A sequel date?" They both started laughing, and it broke the tension. Maya put on the blue dress, left her hair down, and decided that whatever happened would happen. Ethan picked her up at 7. He'd traded his usual business clothes for jeans and a nice shirt, and he looked nervous, which somehow made her feel better. He was holding flowers, which was sweet and old-fashioned in a way that made her heart squeeze. "You look beautiful," he said. "You look nervous," she replied, then winced. Sorry, that came out wrong. You look great, handsome, really handsome. We're both disasters at this, aren't we? Completely. They went to a small Italian restaurant one town over, far enough that they wouldn't run into everyone they knew. The conversation was awkward at first, both of them trying too hard to be casual. But then their appetizer arrived and they both reached for the same breadstick, and the ridiculousness of it broke the ice. Okay, ground rules, Ethan said. No talking about the garage. No talking about my properties. This is not a business dinner. Agreed. And no walking on eggshells. If we're doing this getting to know each other again, we have to be honest. Deal. He took a sip of wine. So tell me about New York. What was your life like there? Maya thought about how to answer. Busy, I worked a lot. Too much, probably. I had an apartment in Brooklyn. Small but nice. I had friends, work friends mostly. We'd go out for drinks after presentations, celebrate wins, complain about difficult clients. Did you date? A few people. Nothing serious. I think I kept everyone at arm's length without really meaning to. She paused. What about you? After your marriage ended, did you date? A couple times. Same as you, nothing stuck. This town is small and everyone knows my history. Plus, I think I was too busy building my business to really invest in someone else. Do you like what you do? The property management, the investments? Ethan considered. I like fixing things. Taking something broken and making it work again. Whether that's a building or a business, I find satisfaction in that. But sometimes I miss working with my hands, actually building things instead of just managing them. You're good at it. What you've done with downtown, bringing in new businesses, it's impressive. Thank you. But let's talk about something other than work. Tell me something I don't know about you, something that happened in the last 8 years. Maya thought about it. I learned to cook. Really cook, not just microwave ramen. I took classes at a culinary school just for fun. I'm pretty good at French cuisine now. That's surprising. You used to burn toast, I know, but it turns out I just needed patience and actual instruction. She smiled. What about you? Any new hidden talents? I learned piano. Started taking lessons about 5 years ago, when I moved into a house with a piano already in it. Seemed like a sign. I'm not great, but I can play most of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata without messing up. I'd like to hear that someday. Maybe you will. The conversation flowed easier after that. They traded stories about their lives carefully at first, then with more openness. Maya talked about her therapist, Dr. Rodriguez, who'd helped her work through the guilt and shame. Ethan talked about his divorce, how he'd felt like a failure even though he knew ending it was the right choice. Can I ask you something serious? Maya said as they waited for dessert. Sure. Do you think we can really do this? Get past everything and build something new? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. Some days I think we're both crazy for trying. We have so much baggage, so much history. It would be easier to just stay friends or even go our separate ways. Her heart sank. But then I see you in the garage covered in grease laughing at something your dad said. Or I catch you looking at the sunset with this expression like you're finally letting yourself feel something real. And I think maybe we deserve a chance to see what we could be without all the pain and fear driving our choices. I think so too. I think we're different people now. Better people, maybe. Definitely more traumatized people, he joked, but there was truth in it. Is it weird that I'm glad for everything we went through? Not glad it happened, but glad for who it made us? No, I get that. I think my 18-year-old self would have been a terrible husband. Too impulsive. Too sure that love alone could fix everything. I understand now that relationships take work. Communication, honesty, even when it's hard. Are we talking about being in a relationship? Maya felt her pulse quicken. Maybe. Eventually. If this keeps going well. He reached across the table and took her hand. But let's not rush it. Let's take our time and do this right. His hand was warm, calloused from work, familiar yet different. Maya squeezed it gently. Taking our time sounds good. After dinner, they walked through the small downtown area. It was cold, late November weather biting at their faces, but neither wanted the night to end. They talked about everything and nothing, finding comfortable silences between conversations. I should get you home, Ethan finally said. It's getting late. Yeah, probably, but neither of them moved. They were standing outside his car and the tension between them was thick with possibility. Ethan stepped closer and Maya's breath caught. I really want to kiss you, he said softly. I really want you to. He cupped her face gently, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. but she didn't want to. She'd been waiting for this moment maybe for 8 years, maybe just since the fair, but it felt inevitable. When his lips touched hers, it was both familiar and completely new, gentler than their teenage kisses, more careful, but with an underlying passion that took her breath away. She wrapped her arms around his neck, and he pulled her closer, and for a moment, the entire world disappeared. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Wow," Maya whispered. "Yeah, wow." They stood there, foreheads touching, neither wanting to let go. "I should really get you home now," Ethan said. "Before I forget how to be a gentleman," she laughed. "Gentleman, right, that's important." The drive back was quiet, but it was the good kind of quiet. Their hands were intertwined on the center console. When he pulled up to her house, he walked her to the door. "I had a really good time tonight," Maya said. "Me too. Can we do it again?" "I'd like that." He kissed her again, quick and sweet. "Good night, Maya." "Good night, Ethan." She floated into the house where Sophie was waiting up like a teenager. "Well, how was it?" "Tell me everything." Maya collapsed on the couch, grinning. It was perfect. The next few weeks felt like falling. Not the scary kind of falling, but the exhilarating kind, like jumping off a cliff knowing someone would catch you. They went on more dates, finding new things to learn about each other. They laughed more than Maya had laughed in years, but it wasn't all easy. Sometimes the past would creep in. Ethan would get quiet when she mentioned New York. Maya would feel a wave of guilt when she saw him with children, thinking about what might have been. They were learning to navigate these moments, to talk about them instead of letting them fester. One evening they were at his house, and he played piano for her like he'd promised. She sat beside him on the bench, watching his hands move across the keys. When he finished, she was crying. "Was it that bad?" He joked. "No, it was beautiful. I'm just happy. Really, genuinely happy. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again." He wiped her tears gently. "I know what you mean. Ethan, I need to tell you something." "Okay. My year is almost up. The original agreement, even though you forgave the debt, I told myself I'd stay a year, but I don't want to leave." His eyes searched her face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to stay. Not for the garage, not for my dad, not even for you, though you're definitely part of it. I want to stay because this is home. I've been running for so long and I'm tired. I'm ready to plant roots, to build a life here. What about your job in New York?" "I already called my boss. I quit. For real this time." She took a breath. "I'm starting my own consulting business. Marketing for small businesses. I can work from here, help places like my dad's garage." Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "You're really staying?" "I'm really staying. I love you," he said suddenly. "I know it's probably too soon to say it and we're taking things slow, but I need you to know. I never stopped loving you, Maya. Not even when I hated you." Tears streamed down her face again. "I love you too. I've loved you since I was 16 years old, and I don't think I ever really stopped." They kissed, and it felt like a promise, like healing, like coming home. But even as Maya felt joy, a small part of her worried. Could it really be this simple? Could they really just decide to be happy and have it work? As if reading her mind, Ethan pulled back. "It's not going to be perfect, you know. We'll still have hard days. We'll still argue. We'll still have to work through things. I know. But I think we're worth the effort. I think what we have is worth fighting for. So do I." December arrived with the first snowfall, coating the town in white. Maya woke up to Sophie shaking her shoulder. "Wake up. The garage roof is leaking in Section 3. Dad's freaking out." Maya groaned but was up and dressed in 10 minutes. By the time she got to the garage, her father and 2 employees were already trying to contain the water with buckets and tarps. The damage wasn't catastrophic, but the ceiling would need repairs they couldn't really afford. She was standing in the cold, staring up at the leak when Ethan's truck pulled up. "Heard you had some trouble," he said, already pulling tools from his truck bed. "Small-town news travels. Fast." Sophie texted me. He grinned and climbed up a ladder without waiting for permission. They spent the morning doing emergency repairs. By lunchtime, the leak was temporarily patched, though they'd need to replace part of the roof in the spring. Maya's father was grateful but worried about the cost. "We'll figure it out, Dad. We always do." That evening, Maya was at Ethan's house making dinner when her phone rang. It was her old boss from New York. "Maya, I need you to reconsider. The promotion is still available. I'll even sweeten the deal, 20% raise, your own team. Company car. She looked at Ethan, who was setting the table, completely comfortable and domestic. She looked around his house, which was starting to feel like her house too. She thought about her father's garage, her consulting business, the community that had welcomed her back. Thank you, really. But I'm happy where I am. I'm where I need to be. If you change your mind, I won't, but I appreciate the offer. After she hung up, Ethan was watching her. No regrets? None at all. But that night lying in bed, Maya did feel a flicker of doubt. Not about Ethan, but about everything. What if she was making another impulsive decision? What if in a year she'd feel trapped again? What if she was just running toward something instead of dealing with her real issues? The next morning she called Dr. Rodriguez, her therapist from New York, who she still talked to occasionally. I'm scared I'm repeating patterns, Maya admitted. 8 years ago I ran away from everything. Now I'm running toward everything. How do I know I'm making the right choice? Because you're asking the question, Dr. Rodriguez said. You're being thoughtful, examining your motives. That's growth. The 18-year-old you made decisions from fear and ran from consequences. The 26-year-old you is making decisions from a place of self-awareness and choosing to face things head-on. What if I mess it up again? You might. We all mess things up sometimes. But you have tools now. You have communication skills, self-awareness, support systems. You're not that scared girl anymore, Maya. After the call, Maya felt better. Dr. Rodriguez was right. She'd done the work. She was ready. The town's winter festival was in full swing, and Maya had volunteered to help organize it. She was at the planning meeting when her mother showed up. They hadn't talked much since Maya's return. The relationship was complicated, heavy with unspoken things. Can we talk? Her mother asked quietly. They stepped outside into the cold. For a long moment, neither spoke. I'm sorry, her mother finally said, for what I said 8 years ago, for the pressure I put on you, for making you feel like you had to handle everything alone. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Why did you push so hard? Why couldn't you just support me? Because I was scared too. I grew up in a time when pregnancy outside marriage was shameful. When I was your age, a girl in our church got pregnant and the whole community shunned her family. I didn't want that for you. But I was so focused on protecting you from judgment that I didn't protect you from the trauma of making that decision alone. I needed you to be my mom, not the town's opinion. I know. I failed you and I've regretted it every day since you left. Her mother was crying now too. Can you forgive me? Maya thought about holding grudges, about letting pain define relationships. She thought about Ethan and how they were choosing to move forward despite the hurt. I'm trying to. It's not instant, but I'm trying. They hugged, awkward at first, then tighter. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The winter festival night was magical. The whole town turned out. Lights twinkling everywhere, children laughing, carols playing. Maya stood at the hot chocolate booth she was running, watching it all with contentment. Ethan found her there, 2 cups of hot chocolate in hand. Taking a break? Just watching. It's beautiful, isn't it? It really is. But he was looking at her, not the festival. They walked through the festival together and people smiled at them. Not with judgment or gossip, but with genuine happiness. Mrs. Peterson from the bakery winked. Old Mr. Yang gave Ethan a thumbs up. Even Jennifer, Ethan's ex-wife, who was there with a new boyfriend, waved politely. The town's really rooting for us, Maya said. They always have been. Even when we weren't rooting for ourselves. As midnight approached, the festival announced the lighting of the town's Christmas tree. Everyone gathered around. Maya stood next to Ethan, their hands intertwined, and felt overwhelmingly grateful. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8, at 1, the tree lit up and the crowd cheered. Ethan turned to her, pulling a small box from his pocket. Maya's heart stopped. Before you panic, he said quickly, this isn't a proposal. We're not ready for that yet. She laughed, relieved and maybe a tiny bit disappointed. But I wanted you to have this. He opened the box. Inside was a key. It's the key to my house. I want you to move in with me. Not because of obligation or because we're rushing, but because waking up next to you is the best part of my day and I want to do it every day. Ethan, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. Take your time, but know that I'm all in. Whatever you decide, whatever pace we take, I'm committed to building this life with you. Maya looked at the key, at his hopeful face, at the town lit up around them. She thought about the girl who'd run away 8 years ago and the woman she'd become. She thought about second chances and forgiveness and the courage it takes to stay. "I don't need time," she said. "Yes, absolutely yes." He picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like kids. When he set her down, he kissed her right there in front of everyone, and the crowd around them cheered again. Sophie found them a moment later, crying happy tears. "I knew it. I knew you two would figure it out." Her father hugged them both. "Welcome home, baby girl. Really home this time." The next few months were a blur of change. Maya moved into Ethan's house, bringing her things slowly, making space her own. They fell into routines, learning each other's habits. He discovered she was grumpy before coffee. She learned he sang in the shower terribly. They argued sometimes, about dishes, about money, about where to spend holidays, but they'd learned to talk through things, to not let resentment build. They were building something real, something that could weather the storms. The garage continued to thrive. Maya's consulting business was taking off, with 3 regular clients and more inquiring. Ethan expanded his properties, but he also started teaching a class at the community center about financial literacy and property investment. One spring morning, 6 months after the festival, Maya woke up to sun streaming through the windows. Ethan was already up and she could smell coffee brewing. She padded into the kitchen and found him making breakfast. "Morning, sleepyhead." "Morning." She wrapped her arms around him from behind. "This is nice. What is?" "This, us, normal, boring domestic life. I never thought I'd want this, but it's everything." He turned in her arms, kissing her forehead. "It's not boring. It's just right." Later that day, they were working in the garden Ethan had started behind the house. Maya was covered in dirt, laughing at his terrible planting technique when he said something that made her freeze. "I've been thinking about kids." She looked up at him. "Kids? Yeah, not now, obviously. But someday, I think I'd like to be a dad. But only if you want that too. I know, given everything, that it might be complicated for you." Maya sat back in the dirt, processing. She'd avoided thinking about children for 8 years. The guilt, the shame, the loss, it had all been too much. But she'd done the work. She'd healed. "I think I'd like that too," she said slowly. "Someday. When we're ready. When I'm ready, no pressure. Just, planting seeds. Literally and metaphorically." He gestured at the garden and she laughed. "Terrible pun." "You love my terrible puns." "I really do." That evening, they went to the garage for a final walkthrough. Maya's father was officially retiring, leaving the business entirely in her hands. It was bittersweet but right. "You've done good, kid," her father said, looking around at the clean, organized, thriving business. "Better than I ever did. You built something that mattered. I just modernized it. You built a life that matters. That's harder." After her father left, Maya stood in the quiet garage, remembering everything. The scared girl she'd been. The lost woman she'd become. The person she was now. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" "About that question I asked you at the fair. If I sit right here, will you still pretend you don't care?" "Best question you ever asked me. It changed everything, didn't it?" Finally being honest. "It did." He turned her around to face him.
Maya Chen, I love you.
"I love your strength, your vulnerability, your terrible taste in coffee, and your ability to fix anything you put your mind to. I love that you came back.